Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to week 7. It is the second to last week of ENG 107. And this is also the final week that we will have a workshop on Tuesday evening. So if you can join us tomorrow night, that would be great. If not, I will provide the recording as always. But let's get started with going through what's happening in Unit 7. This is the last major writing assignment that you're going to do. The assignments in week 8 are a little bit shorter and less stressful because it ties everything together and is more reflective than anything else. So Unit 7 is our big chance to showcase what we have learned in writing papers for college. So let me open the course. And we're going to go straight to Unit 7. The theme this week is communication. We are going to continue thinking about digital literacy. We kind of started talking about information literacy last week. We're going to be looking at different digital media platforms, examining different types of communications, and researching information to support an opinion. Essentially, that's what you're doing when you are writing a research paper. You are researching things to support your own take on something. Again, we've talked a little bit about how the word opinion sometimes gets a bad rap. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So let's take a look at this week's readings and resources. So first item of business, of course, is the academic writing textbook. You have 2 chapters from the Johnson book, drafting and revision, and editing and sharing. So we are kind of at the tail end now of the writing process, the academic writing process. Once we have a full version of our document, we need to revise it for content as well as surface issues. And then the editing is where we really take up proofreading and things of that nature. And then, of course, publishing is what you'll hear it called some places. For college, of course, it doesn't feel like publishing, but sharing it makes better sense as a terminology. So I kind of like that they use that term. The next item on our list is an article about body language. And so we're going to be focusing on body language and how we communicate using more than just our words. So there's an article, well, chapter 2, What is Universal, from the Body Language Handbook, and then an article from Public Relations Strategies and Tactics from 2023, Using Your Body Language to be Persuasive. And then one more article on body language from Discover that talks about how body language is learned versus comes naturally. There are certainly expectations for body language that are cultural, shaking hands, making eye contact, things of that nature. Some of it comes naturally. Some of it is something that we learn through whatever our particular culture is. So that'll be helpful there. The next video is the basis for this week's discussion board. And so you are evaluating the communication that is occurring in this video. It is a clip from a movie called Tin Men. And then there are some additional resources about digital communications, body language, etc. So there's a lot of fun stuff at the end here, all fairly short videos. So take a look at those as well. All right, let's go to the next item, which will be the interactives. There are 2 this week. The first one is going to focus on creating reference pages. We've already been doing that, but we are going to do it again this weekend with maybe bigger stakes. It's the last big reference page that we're going to be working on. And so that's going to help you with this week's assignment, as well as the 7.2, which is going to review the various kinds of academic writing that we do. So again, make sure you are taking these items in order, do the readings and resources first, then the interactives, then tackle the discussion board. So the discussion board this week, like I said, focuses on that clip from the movie Tin Men. It can sometimes be hard to determine what is factual online. There are so many elements to consider, such as the author, the validity of the information, and company sponsorships. To help us look more deeply into the analysis of multimedia and social media, let's take a look at the movie clip. Watch the Tin Men clip in this week's Readings and Resources. Oh, excuse me. And then discuss what you notice as it relates to evaluating information. So, some questions to guide you. Credibility. Are the two men in the clip credible? Would you consider them to be trustworthy? Is the information they present reliable? It's entirely possible for someone to be trustworthy and give you bad information in general, or it's more likely probably that you would find somebody to be not credible, but it turns out the information they are giving you is good. Wikipedia is a great example of that. Even though we don't consider it an academically credible resource, it typically does have reliable information. And so we use it all the time, not necessarily for academic purposes, but for our normal everyday life. So are they credible? Do they present reliable information? Second item, are they good communicators? Again, somebody can be a great communicator and still be a liar, liar, pants on fire, right? So do they communicate effectively? Do they have an understanding of their audience, who they're speaking to? Do they have a clear purpose, even if they don't explain it to the homeowner? So the purpose behind what they say, for example. And then, of course, feel free to write about other stuff with this clip, anything that caught your interest in the movie, specifically, of course, related to reliability, credibility, that sort of stuff. Make sure you post your own response and then respond to at least 2 of your classmates, as we have been doing throughout the whole course. Next week, it'll change a little bit because of a fairly shorter week, slightly shorter week. But this week, 2 responses to others plus your own by next Sunday. Unit 7's assignment is an essay. Okay, so we have written 1 essay previously, and in that one, you had shorter paragraphs, 3 sentences or more. In this paper, you're still going to have 3 paragraphs, but each of the paragraphs needs to be at least 6 sentences. So we're going back to kind of our normal size for a paragraph. You have 2 attachments. You have the template, which we've used before. I will give you a newer, completely formatted version as an attachment to this announcement. And then, of course, we're going to go over the rubric and assignment assignment sheet. But you are writing a 3-paragraph essay. You are also going to have sources that you are using. So you will have a title page. You will have the essay starting on page 2. Those 3 paragraphs need to be double spaced, and the first line of each paragraph needs to be indented. So these need to fit all the traditional setup for the APA papers. And then the final page will be the reference page, and you will have 2 resources on it. All right, so in the first paragraph, you're going to do the following. Let me make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. This is the first paragraph here. In your first paragraph, oh, it's not going to let me highlight that, but that's okay. What role will verbal and nonverbal communication have in your future career? So this has nothing to do with the clip of Tin Men. This is all about the readings that you've done both this week and previously when we're talking about verbal, nonverbal communication, soft skills, those kinds of things. So the first paragraph will focus on this week and verbal and nonverbal communication in your particular career field. Begin by explaining how good verbal and nonverbal communication will help you in the career that you've decided to pursue. Be specific about your particular chosen career. Why would you consider them to be important in your future career? And you're going to include information from one of the articles in this week's unit. So in paragraph 1, you are going to paraphrase information from one of the articles on body language and nonverbal communication. You will cite that information because you are using research. So you will have one of those in-text citations that we've seen before that have the author's last name, the year, and the page number, if the page number is available. If it's not, you just leave that off. It would be the author's last name and the year. If you name the author in the sentence, you do not have to put the last name again in the in-text citation. It would just be the year. So we'll look at that when we go into the sample. So that's paragraph 1. In the second paragraph, you're going to review the Unit 6 assignment. So go back to last week. You did the annotated bibliography that had 3 different articles on soft skills. Pick one additional soft skill from the articles in the Unit 6 readings and resources and answer the following questions. What is the soft skill you chose? Why would you consider that soft skill you picked to write about important to your future career? So again, focusing on what you really want to do, be specific as possible. And in paragraph 2, you're going to include a direct quotation. When you include a quotation, of course, it's got quotation marks around it. You also want to do something to introduce the quote. So you don't just stick a quote in, you want to attach it to a phrase or a sentence of your own. And then, of course, you have to cite that as well. So you cite information, whether you put it in your own words or you quote it. In the first paragraph, it must be paraphrased. In the second paragraph, it must be quoted. So please be sure to follow those instructions because that is reflected in the rubric. In the citation, again, author's last name, year, and page number, if you have all that information. If it was a source that didn't have an author, and we have had some of those, then it would be the title. So you always use whatever comes first on the reference page. So you want to do the reference first, and then you'll know what you need to put in the in-text citation. If you have a source that doesn't have a date, then we can't put a year. We put in period, D period for no date. And we'll look at those in a minute. And then in your third paragraph, this is really all you. There's no research in the third paragraph. In your third paragraph, answer the following. How does your understanding of digital literacy or information literacy help you develop communication and the soft skill mentioned above? Okay, so those are your 3 paragraphs, at least 6 sentences each. First one has a cited piece of paraphrased research. The second one has a quoted piece of research that is also cited. And in the third, it's really just your own take on the situation. In that third paragraph, please be careful about using first person. This is your opinion, but you are writing this for an academic purpose. So you never need to say things like, I think, I feel, I see, I believe, I read. Just make your points. Okay. I know it's hard, but I'm sure that in somewhere along the lines in high school, you were probably told never to use the word I in a paper. And that is sort of true. Now, it's not 100% true. There's always exceptions, but you never need to say, I think this, or I feel this, or I believe this, because it's your paper. So of course it's what you feel. Okay. You're going to use the references from both of those articles, and you're going to create your reference page. Now, I am going to encourage you to do your reference page before you write your paragraph because you need that in order to know what goes inside the in-text citations. Okay, so requirements. Word document has to be a document that's uploaded. I've still got a few folks who are only typing in boxes. That is not how you turn in formal work at Post University in terms of writing. It has to be a Word document. It could be saved as a PDF, but it needs to be a word processed document. It needs to be an actual document. It's going to have a title page that should match the template for APA. The whole kit and caboodle is double spaced. There's 1-inch margins on the whole thing. Use an APA recommended font. Typically 12 point Times New Roman is what we use. and has a reference page, again, in proper APA format for the two articles. Each of the 3 paragraphs in the paper should be at least 6 sentences in length, 1 direct quote, 1 paraphrase. Okay, paraphrasing paragraph 1, quote in paragraph 2. The rubric spells that all out. Do you have a title page? Do you have paragraph 1? Does it fully answer the prompt? Does it talk about the questions about communication? Paragraph 2, does it fully address the questions about soft skills? Paragraph 3, does it fully address the question about digital literacy? You either did or did not include a direct quote. So that's an all or nothing category. The reference page, is it there? Is it formatted properly? Are the paragraphs at least 6 sentences? If not, unfortunately, that means you lose points. So make sure that you're following all of the rules and regulations. And then, of course, APA format, grammar and mechanics, the citations, all that good stuff. Okay. So let's take a look at a sample. And I'm going to open my own sample. You are, of course, welcome to use the template. But as we have seen in some weeks past, the template has some problems in terms of especially the reference page and how that's set up. So I am going to encourage you instead to use my handout. So let me find it here. Having a hard time finding it. It's down in way down in the list of my documents, so it's taken me a second, so I apologize. Let's see. If not, I'll create a new one, but I really hate to reinvent the wheel if I don't have to. Okay, I'm sorry, that took forever. So I actually paused the recording. So hopefully you didn't have to sit there and just watch me search too long. This is the sample for Unit 7, and I'm going to share this one. This one has not been updated. This was from last term. It is still relevant. It's exactly the same assignment. So I will share this one with you. I will update the dates for you so that you don't have to worry about that. So Sunday's date is what? Let's double check our calendar. So many screens to look at today. All right, so Sunday's date is the 20th. So let's change this to April 20th so that you don't have to worry about that. Okay. Otherwise, this is fine. I'm going to update the date on the item as well. So we're going to put this as term 5 since that's where we are now. All right. So let's save that. All right. So cover page. Title is bold, 1 drop line, everything else is plain double spaced. Your first and last name, English Department Post University, the course, me, your teacher, and the date. You will repeat the title at the top of page 2 in bold, same thing. And then you will write about the current information for verbal and nonverbal. Now, I have a little bit, I did it a little bit backwards here because I quoted something or I cited something from the soft skills article in the first paragraph, I would be using one of this week's articles for the first paragraph. But I really just wanted you to see what it looked like. So I've got the information here. Make sure that you get rid of all this stuff that is just repeated from the assignment sheet, and write your own version. Um, Here is a nice signal phrase. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, we have paraphrased information. And then we have, because this one does not have an author, we have the title, soft skills. We have an N period, D period, because it didn't have a year or a date. And then this PARA period means paragraph 3 because it was a website. So there was not a page number. Then in the second paragraph, again, the directions are there. Make sure you do not include those directions. Just write your paragraph. And we have another signal phrase in an article from Star Press. Now, I didn't use the author's name, so you'll notice that the author's name does appear in the in-text citation, along with the year and paragraph 1. And then, of course, the third paragraph is all about you. References page, we have the samples here from, there's two. Well, the first one, let's double check. I think the first one is from this week. Let me look back at the assignment. Let's go back to the readings and resources. Remember, just like last week, the information is already cited for you. So yes, so Burrell, this was one that was from this week. This one is from this week. Hartley and Carnich is from this week. So one of these three will be on this list, as well as one of the items from last week. I've got 3 things listed on here just to show you what they look like. This is the one that I reused from last week, the soft skills one. This one is not actually on either list anymore, so I'm going to take it out. But that way you can see what it would look like. Remember, they do need to be in alphabetical order, so Burrell comes before soft skills. Okay. So that's what it'll look like. It doesn't matter what order you use them in the paper, it's alphabetical on the reference list. And we need this to know what goes inside those in-text citations. Okay. All right, so that's what it looks like. If you have any questions about it, try to attend the workshop tomorrow night so you can ask your questions live. Otherwise, of course, feel free to email me or send me a message and ask the instructor. I'm happy to help you as much as I can, and I will give you that handout that you can use as a template. So everybody take care. Have a great week 7, and I'll see you one more time, one more Monday next week. So everybody have a good one, and talk soon.